So, ultimate gear. So now we're just testing out a new wing, see how it competes with the Dominator, which I've already flown it foot launching, and but we'll see how it does a little more loaded up. The trike makes it easy to add lots of weight. So if you want to test wings at their maximum loading, you can just keep adding weight until you get a good idea. Where foot launching, it's kind of hard to add 200 pounds unless you fly it tandem. Where with the trike, you can just keep adding light weight to the luggage bag. The air trike makes that real simple. Okay, here we go. Let's go flying. And up she goes. And off. Felt a little sluggish coming up. That Dominator really spoils you. You can just feel it's so light and effortless. It just comes up instantly without effort and just kind of sits there and waits for you to tell it what to do. So you can definitely feel the weight of this glider immediately. Okay, here we go. Throttle off. Let's see how she glides. Let's pull the trims down. Oh, there's a... Oh, definitely don't like that. Oh my gosh. You never really appreciate all the little features on the Dominator until you fly something else. Just something like putting the trims down can be a royal pain in the butt on other gliders. Okay. Wow, that is sinking. That's some sink rate. Try that again. That Dominator really glides, which is crazy efficient. It's that efficiency of the Dominator, which is why I was able to set the world speed record. You know two things from a speed record. First of all, you know it's the fastest glider on the planet, 51 miles an hour on the Dominator. But the other thing you know automatically is that it's also the most efficient wing on the planet, because the most efficient wing will automatically be the fastest. Because speed, you have limited power, and if you have X amount of power, the most efficient wing is going to give you the most amount of speed before you run out of power. And the Dominator gives you 51 miles an hour before you run out of power. That is the max speed at which you're full throttle and you can no longer maintain altitude, 51 miles an hour. So this one's glide ratio, it definitely comes down a lot faster than the Dominator and does not glide nearly as well. But now that it's a little more loaded up, let's see how that glide is. Now that's really super important. One of the first things I test is a side-by-side glide ratio or a sink rate. And the Dominator just destroys glider after glider after glider. I mean, the Dominator has literally beaten uncertified class gliders. Like we compared it with the Nucleon, the 16 square meter Dominator will outglide and outsink the 29 square meter Nucleon, which is just crazy for a glider half the size to have a lower sink rate. That really gives you an idea of how efficient it is. Okay. Handles nicely, goes through the turbulence nicely. The efficiency is important because the more efficiency you have, the lower your sink rate, the less power it takes to fly, the better your climb rate. And so your entire flight, if you just compare a little bit of sink rate for a few seconds, that's one thing. But when you take it out over a 2, 3 hour, 4, 5 hour flight, you start adding that up for hours on end, and it really starts making a big difference. So you switch from gliders, that are half the efficiency or less than the Dominator, and you're using way more fuel. The Dominator is going to give you, half hour to an hour more fuel efficiency compared to the really inefficient wings. So it is very important. Okay, now here's another test that's important, is the oscillation control. So I'm going to start an oscillation. Now I'm going to go hands off and do nothing. And let's see what happens with this oscillation. And here's the problem with this glider. Even though it's DHB1, notice it's putting me into a terminal dive. Whoa! Okay, so this glider gets an F. That is a flunk. That is a complete failure. So there's gliders like the Mac Para and other gliders that will oscillate under power. And instead of getting better, they actually get worse. So they will start oscillating worse and worse and worse until you are literally doing a loop or a dive straight at the ground. That is very, very bad. Now for handling, it might handle okay, but for safety, you would never ever want to put a new student or newer pilot on a glider that oscillates violently. If you passed out and were unconscious and the glider doesn't immediately recover from an oscillation, that could mean death. So the Dominator will dissipate oscillation and automatically correct it, where this glider, as you saw, will automatically make it worse. So we start an oscillation, we hold power, and we just sit flat. And let's see what happens. Yep, it's rocking worse. And that was a little worse. And now it's getting worse. And yep, you can see the oscillation is intensifying, getting worse and worse. And I'm doing absolutely nothing. I'm sitting perfectly flat with no hands on the brakes. And the glider is oscillating violently. So now I'm diving literally straight at the ground. And now I am straight down. And I did not do that. That was all the glider. There is no pilot input whatsoever in that right there. So even though it's a beginner class glider, one of the things about beginner class gliders is they're all different. You can't just trust the certification because you add loading, you add trims, and things change. Like this glider goes from being super duper safe. If you had it very lightly loaded, I would suspect it would not do that. We'll have to test that later. But when you start loading it up a little bit, this glider begins to oscillate and intensifies, gets worse and worse and worse. That's very bad. So it's not as efficient, it's not as fast, it doesn't have as low of a sink rate, so your climb rate isn't as good. And that safety, that is a major, major safety issue. This is not something you just have Joe Blow newbie pilot go out and pretend like they're doing tests. They don't truly understand all the dynamics that a experienced instructor does. A super experienced instructor understands what happens to new pilots, and we know exactly what a characteristic of a glider, how that's going to relate to a new pilot and what situations that can put them into. So you really have to make sure you only take advice from people that really know what they're doing. There's people out there giving advice and pretending to be experts, you know, and doing all these videos, and they get all kinds of views. But if you realize they're a brand new pilot themselves, they literally don't have a clue what they're talking about. So very, very important that you're getting input from an extremely experienced and skilled pilot. All right, let's try us a frontal collapse here. Boom. Okay, no problem. Nothing, full frontal. And recovered, no problem. And no problem. So that's no problem. But even still, that oscillation under power, that's basically a flunk. That's a fail. So you hear people, salespeople, the big sales pitch. Oh, this glider's new technology. Well, why is your new technology glider slower than the Dominator? Why is your high technology and new technology, why doesn't it glide as well? Why doesn't it handle as well? Why does your new technology not as safe? Why is your new technology oscillate violently under load? It's not new technology, it's sales pitch. People release new gliders because they know most people are so ignorant, they will just buy it thinking that they automatically assume a new glider means it's better. It absolutely does not mean it's better. It just means it's new, and they think or realize the vast majority of people out there will automatically assume a new glider is better. So they release new gliders every year. Even though they're not any better, they just change a little characteristic here, change there, claim they have some new technology, throw it out there with some sales pitch, and it's all about getting you to buy a new glider. When in reality, if you test it against the current best, which is the Dominator, again, we see a fail compared to, you know, an older glider's kicking the crap out of everything. So there's a huge difference between sales pitch and reality and truth. You have to really look at each characteristic. It has nothing to do with opinion, because characteristics can be measured. Speed can be measured. Nothing beats 51 miles an hour of a Dominator. You can measure speed. If there's a faster glider, you would see somebody out there flying over 51 miles an hour. And same with glide ratio. You put two gliders side by side, one glider is going to outsync the other glider, and it's going to glide better. So there's measurable stats and characteristics. You want to be real careful about taking sales pitch or opinion, and make sure you base things on fact and reality. So there we go. Now, a glider that oscillates can also be a bit fun. But then again, just because it's a fun glider or it has a few really cool characteristics doesn't make it the best. If you're gonna spend $3,000 to $4,000 on a glider, you might as well get the best darn glider for that money. Where they're selling gliders they call new technology that weigh like 16 pounds, and the Dominator's only 7 pounds. Where's the new technology when it's double the weight, over double the weight? It's not new technology. It's just new, a new version. Sales pitch versus fact. So, woo. The other thing is you got to be careful just taking one or two characteristics. It's the whole overall picture. The Dominator isn't the best glider in the world because it's the safest, because there's other gliders that are really safe. The glider's not, you know, the Dominator's not just the best because it's the fastest, because there's other gliders that are close, you know, maybe give or take 6, 7, 8 miles an hour. So there's other gliders that are fast. What there aren't are fast, safe gliders. That's what you don't find. The thing about the Dominator is you have the glide ratio, you have the handling, you have the safety, you have the efficiency, you have the lightweight, you have every single characteristic maxed out in one single glider. So you have a glider that is the absolute best, and it's absolutely phenomenal in every single characteristic, not just one or two. That's why the Dominator is so unbeatable and undefeated. And that's why we fly it. So because of the safety and that automatic stability, it's the perfect glider for brand new pilots. And because of the performance, it's also the perfect glider for experienced pilots. So that new pilot can buy a wing knowing that he's going to be able to keep it even after he is an experienced pilot. The Dominator is just absolutely incredible, and it literally handles better than some acro gliders. There's another thing, another piece of handling is what it does in a turn. So less safe gliders will balance themselves out in a turn. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. Where the Dominator does not. So the Dominator, you have to hold into a turn. It's very light brake pressure, so it's very easy, but you have to hold it into that turn. It doesn't balance and lock into that turn, which is really a good thing. Think about driving a really old truck with play in the steering wheel. If you have a glider that balances in a turn and wants to stay in that angle, then you're constantly having to pull left and right brakes to keep it going straight, just like a truck that has a lot of play in the steering wheel. Where if you have a glider that holds constant pressure, then there's no play because you're holding pressure into the turn and you only have to use the one brake. You add pressure to get more turn and ease off the pressure to get less turn. So you're only modulating one brake, but you also have a much higher level of precision because you're not having to go back and forth. So if I throw this glider into a dive, and now, as soon as I threw it into the dive, I didn't touch brakes again. It just stays in that dive, which is kind of fun, but it's actually not what you want. What you want is a glider that you have to hold into that turn. For one, for safety, because if you ever passed out, the glider would automatically want to return itself to straight and level. But for two, it's better to have that pressure on that one hand so that you have a quicker and more precise control of the exact precision you're trying to shoot for, if you see what I'm saying. If it balances in the middle, you're constantly having to go back and forth to keep it in the middle. If it doesn't balance in a turn and you have to hold a brake to keep it in the turn, then you always have that pressure on the one brake. And so you always have that constant feel and exact perfection of precision, knowing exactly where it's at, because you have to hold it there, as opposed to it balancing it here. Oh, we want to return, so now I got to turn, and then counter turn, and then turn, and then counter, and it's back and forth, instead of just one brake and using the outer braking more for pitch control. There we go. For a super experienced pilot, it doesn't matter as much. Where for new pilots, that's super important. I mean, yeah, see, I'm using a lot more back and forth, so left and right brake. Once I get down there, I'm using both brakes back and forth to have to keep it to the angle that I want. Where that Dominator, you dive in and you're holding a little bit of pressure to keep it in, so you just have that extra precision. So I got a little bit of a tailwind, so how am I going to deal with that? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the glider over to the side as I slow down and then hit that brake and try and whip it back around to the side. There we go. So that glider is about 24 square meter. I'd have to look it up. This glider, the extra small, is, 19.75 square meters. We fly tandem on these little gliders. The Dominator really is so efficient and produces so much lift. It's really incredible how much weight these will carry. See, with the Dominator, you got these little loops, and it's much easier. You just pull that, and it's just boop, and you go all the way to trims down. Trims up, trims down. Very, very simple. I've been perfecting these risers over years and years and years. So it's very nice to have risers that are that quick and simple to operate. Okay. Let's try our old, outdated, faster, more efficient, better handling, safer glider. You can say new technology all you want, but when the old technology kicks the crap out of you, that kind of makes you a liar. So you're either telling the truth or you're not. You really got to double check people in this sport, because there are a lot of liars and very few honest people. And why? Because it's harder. You know, in this case, you know, you might not be selling the newest glider. This glider's been out for quite a while, but it is the best glider, and I challenge anyone to actually beat it. Beat it, yeah. Beat it, yeah. Don't make me repeat it. You're saying how funky your reflex is. WHAP! You're dead. Okay, here we go. Yeah, oh yeah, so much lighter. Wow. And trims down, one swoop. See that? Trims down. That's it, just one quick, easy, simple swoop. And you go from trims all the way up to trims down. Ah, Dominator, baby. You immediately feel it is so much lighter and so much more gentle on the handling and so much quicker. It's more responsive, but you also have more stability. It's also more stable, which is really incredible. Now this is really pushing it, because you're talking about an extra small glider that is much smaller, but here we go. So let's start our oscillation. We sit flat. And let's see. You know, with a super tiny glider, look at that. It's already balanced right there. So it oscillated a couple of times and bam, dissipate, dissipate. Now you see why we fly a Dominator. Even with this small of a glider, with this much weight on it, that is what new technology is. I don't care if it's an older glider, it just kicked the crap out of you. There we go. Oscillation. So there's a big oscillation. I'm holding full throttle and doing absolutely nothing. And you know, a bigger glider would balance out that oscillation very quickly, but look at that. What do we got? 3, and bam. The oscillation is getting better and better, and it's gone. That's why you fly a Dominator. Now, let's see if we can demonstrate that handling. So here we go. Dive. And, well, actually, we just demonstrated what I was talking about, which is the glider wants to stabilize itself. Bam, I'm hands off, and the glider is going to want to automatically stabilize itself and return to straight and level flight, even if you flip it upside down. Where if you're on the wrong glider, like Mac Paras or some of the other gliders, they don't automatically stabilize like that. You have to be really, really careful what glider you're talking about. This is why we fly the Dominator. So now when I do that same death spiral, if you want to do some handling, the Dominator handling is absolutely incredible. Now let me do some death spirals here. So this is a much smaller glider, and bam, it immediately balances out that oscillation completely by itself. So if you pass out, the glider's trying to save your life. Okay, yep. Huge difference. So I'm holding just gentle, ever so light right brake pressure. So I can literally put the left brake away and just gently hold ever so slightly on that right brake. And if I ever let go of the right brake, boom, it's going to immediately return to straight and level flight all by itself. Bingo, just like that. That's why we fly that Dominator. That is new technology. There's sales pitch, and then there's truth. There's safety, and there's dead. 19 dead in 1 year on other crap because of things like gliders not balancing out oscillations versus nobody has ever died in the history of the sport on a Dominator. Obviously, you can die on anything. It's about the odds. It just shows how huge the odds are stacked in your favor when you fly the safest wing. So when I'm in that turn, I have to hold just a little bit of brake pressure to keep it in that turn, which gives you such a higher level of precision because you're not going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You're just holding it gently in that turn, and you can add a little bit to turn sharper or ease off to exit the turn. And if you just let go, it'll automatically exit all by itself, basically. So, much more precision and much, much safer. And because of the efficiency, I can hold a sharper angle. Woo! So I'm flying around in circles through my wake. Look at the attitude I'm managing there. Woo-hoo-hoo! Went through some violent wake, so we'll dive back in. Very nice. And it's all about managing one hand instead of two hands. So the other hand is used more for pitch control and stability, which is what it's supposed to be used for, as opposed to managing your place in the turn. You don't really do it because you have to hold yourself in the turn. You're just holding yourself in the turn. It's not about having to go back and forth, back and forth. Oh, I need more, I need less, I need more, I need less. So you're not constantly having to go back and forth, back and forth. Managing that turn is primarily done with that one hand. And then if you want to exit, bam, you let that hand out. And if you want to exit faster, you can pull the other brake a little bit and make it exit even faster. So beautiful handling, but while also maintaining the highest possible level of safety. You can get both if you deal with people that know what the heck they're doing. If you talk to some Joe Blow newbie like Tucker Gott, he basically will just talk about any glider you pay him to. Completely different. You got a total newbie. I just saw one of the guy's videos, and he's like, this is the first time I've ever done this. I'm a little scared. And you're like, well, that's a perfect example of how not to do things. You don't just go out and try things. That's the whole point of having an instructor, to actually teach you how to do things properly. And then he's trying to give advice while admitting it's the first time he's ever done it. Well, if it's the first time you've ever done it, we don't want your freaking advice. Hello? You kind of want to take advice from people that know what the heck they're doing. So, vast experience. Yee-hoo! Bingo. Okay. And then again, watch this. Trims up. Boom. Trims down. Trims up. Boom. Trims down. Did you see that? Trims down. Boop. Trims up. Trims down. That simple. Very, very simple. So many other gliders are a pain in the butt. Plus, you got competition toggles. You don't have to wrap the brake line around your hand because you got a second level brake toggle. It's just all these little cool freaking slick features on the Dominator. This glider has been absolutely perfected over the years. Very, very cool. I want to go fly some more. Let's go flying. Yo. And booyah, to a landing. Smaller, faster, higher performance, safer glider. That is new technology. Or old technology they have just never been able to beat. Whatever you want to call it. Better is better is better is better. Sales pitch versus fact. Done. Amen. Hallelujah. Can I get an amen? Yeah. Nothing puts a smile on your face like flying a flat top in a Dominator, baby. Coolest thing you'll ever do. It is the shiznit kerswing. See, I was all like blah, blah, blah when I started, and then as soon as you fly, compare the beginning of the video to the end of the video. It's like drinking 10 Red Bulls. You just go flying, and all of a sudden you're like jumping up and down, having a blast. Freaking coolest thing ever. As long as you're on the right gear and you get the right training. Be smart and do the right start. Okie dokie. Ooh yeah. Man, this glider weighs nothing. Another lie you'll hear, total flat out liars. Oh, those lightweight gliders will wear out so fast. No. That's basically admission they don't know anything about the sport. In order for a glider to pass certification, it has to pass the same load tests. So if you have a glider that is just as strong because it passed the same load tests, but it's lighter, it's actually going to last longer because when you drop a lighter glider, it doesn't crash to the ground as hard. And when you start, you go to launch a lighter glider. Watch some of those heavy gliders when people go to launch. They run like 6 feet, dragging the glider across the rocks before the glider comes off the ground. But if you watch a launch of the Dominator, it doesn't drag at all. It's so light, it immediately comes up off the ground. So it just doesn't get the abuse like the heavy gliders do. So you have the exact same strength, but in a lighter package. It's like a bicycle. Is a lighter bicycle going to wear out? No, it's just as strong as the heavy bicycle. It's just lighter. So it ends up lasting you longer. Just 'tis the way it goes. Lighter, but the same strength equals better. 'Tis the way it goes.